to the Inspirational Businesswoman Show. I'm your host, Virginia Parsons, and I'm so excited today to be interviewing Jackie Lapin, and we'll be talking about the SpeakerTunity formula to get booked everywhere. Welcome. It's so happy to have you here today because I know your time is valuable. And I want to thank you for taking the time to be here today. I know you're going to find the information that Jackie has for you to be really, really powerful. Now, before we get started, I would love to have you help spread the word and let people know about this interview with Jackie. So what I'm going to do is play the preview trailer. And while you're watching the preview trailer, just hit that share button and let people know who might benefit by this interview, and then we'll be getting started speaking with Jackie in just a moment. All right, I think you can see that we are in for a real treat with Jackie here today. And before we get started, I'd like you to know that today's show is sponsored by hangout-marketing.com, where you can receive a complimentary live stream marketing assessment. Now, that assessment will only take you a couple of minutes, and it's going to help you determine where you are and getting more visible online using live stream. And you might even qualify for a complimentary Shine Online session with me. So to take advantage of that, all you need to do is text pound success to 775-800-4179. Or if you're out of the United States, you can simply go to hangout-marketing.com. All right, let's get started introducing you to Jackie. Now listen, if you want to consistently grow your business, get more exposure as a sought-after expert, and attract more clients, you're going to love today's interview with Jackie Lapin, founder of SpeakerTunity. Now, she has curated literally hundreds of thousands of speaker opportunities and booking resources to help you get booked literally everywhere. So today, Jackie's going to reveal what a booker needs to hear so that they could book you everywhere. And you're going to find out about the tools you need to get booked on stages, on podcasts, and on summits. And finally, we're going to talk about where do you find these speaking gigs that are going to be perfect just for you. Now, as one of the first women sports writer, Jackie went on to run one of the largest sports PR agencies in the country for 20 years. She then founded Conscious Media Relations, doing podcast and radio tours. And this evolved into her current passion to help leaders, speakers, coaches, authors, and entrepreneurs get access to resources and all the tools they need to get booked everywhere, from in-person speaking platforms to virtual events, podcasts, and summits. So Jackie, come on in and say hi to our audience. Boy, that is quite a bio, my dear.
Well, thank you ever so much, Virginia. I am just delighted to be here. And, I think that if you're an emerging leader, expert, author, coach, You have to be looking at getting on stages, and that includes podcasts and summits and TEDx's, because if you don't, you really are overlooking, you're leaving money on the table and not enough people know about you. So we're here to help people get booked faster, easier, and in more places. And I'm thrilled to be able to support this community by giving some tips and heads up.
Yeah, I think it's just wonderful. And, so often when I speak to people, I want to know a little bit about their background. Well, we just heard about your background and what got you to be what you're doing today. And I think it's sort of interesting if you would share with people how this all evolved as far as how did you get into sports podcasting in the first place, or sports announcing, first woman, huh?
Well, when I was very, very young, we moved to a part of the state that was very unfriendly and they didn't like outsiders. And so I grew up very, very much alone. So I learned to love sports. I loved the Dodgers and I was a very good writer. And at some point, I felt I didn't have a voice. I was completely being ignored by my peers. And so I needed to have an identity, something that I could be visible in the world. I could speak, I could be heard. And so I decided that I would put my two favorite things together and I would become a sports writer. And that was at age 11. And so at 20, I was at the Detroit Free Press. 21, I was at the Associated Press and on the front pages of the LA Times. At 22, I was co-hosting Dodger Dugout and I was at the Washington Post. And so that for me, was, I think the success is the best revenge. And so I was really able to realize my dream. And then I went on to have a world-class PR agency that had, you would know all of my clients, everything from Toyota Motorsports to Top Rank Boxing to the National Hockey League. And so it was a really great ride for 20 years. I wrote 2 books in personal growth toward the end of that period. The media was changing. It was harder to get in. But I was called to write these 2 books. One was the best spiritual book of the year at the International New Age Trade Show. They're on practical conscious creation. And at that point, I realized that my heart lay with the people who were making the world a better place. That's where I wanted to put my efforts. So I rebranded Conscious Media Relations and started doing the radio podcast tours where we offer authors to and leaders to 9,000 radio shows and podcasts with a minimum guarantee of 30 interviews. Now, we've done that for people like Don Miguel Ruiz and Ariel Ford, James Twyman, Joe Vitale, Chris and Janet Atwood, Maureen St. Germain, Marie Diamond, and many more. About 400 people, 90 testimonials. And we continue to do that program. But about 5 years into it, people came to me and said, can you book me for speaking gigs? And I said, I don't want to do that, but I know where they are. So why don't I just tell you? And that's how SpeakerTunity was born. We created one original product really for the transformational leader on leads all over North America. And then we started to grow and grow and grow. And I call part of what we've built my pandemic project, because during that time, we were building out all the virtual stages, not just the live stage opportunities. And so, and we continue to add services that fill the void for speakers and leaders at virtually any level of their speaking. As they're beginners, they're emerging, they're already out there, but they need more places to speak. And those that are, more experienced and they're just looking for getting in front of meeting planners or a database of events that have actually issued calls for speakers. So, it's all from the beginning to the end. Wherever you are, we have something for you.
Well, I love hearing this, and I hope all of you are really grasping what Jackie just shared, because that was a bundle of information, number one. But I'm going to go back to the basics of the evolution of her career and how she realized that her interests and desires were changing and up-leveling as well. And as a result, wanting to help more and more people get the exposure that they need, because you became very aware at a very young age, the importance of exposure, and went out and found your path to create it. And so for all of you watching today, when you hear a gem from Jackie, I want to hear about it. Put pound gem in the comments and let me know what you found particularly inspiring about what she's sharing with you. I think we're going to get lots and lots of feedback here, Jackie. So let's talk about, I think the interest that people really do have is, what do people need to present to a booker, as you would call them? I don't know if that's necessarily an agent or not, but someone who would book you into some type of an event, whether it's virtual or live. What is it that they really need to hear to say, I'm going to get you out there everywhere?
So can I share my screen, Virginia?
I think that would be great. Go ahead.
So I'm going to show you what is going to get you booked, what motivates a booker to say yes to her. And what that is relevance. What makes you relevant to their audience? This is the single most important factor that you can consider. And now I'm going to go through the different elements that are going to make you feel relevant. So when you're writing your pitch letter, when you're putting in your speaker sheet, when you're having a conversation with somebody, you can reference these things. And that's going to make them feel like, oh, this person is right and relevant to my audience. So how can you make yourself relevant? The first thing is it's the right demographic, age, gender, or mindset for this audience. If the gatekeeper has got an audience that's millennials and you really have a product for middle-aged women, it is not a fit. You also need to consider the mindset match. What is that audience going through? That, where are they in life? What are their concerns? Where are they financially? What are the things that they are saying to themselves that you can address that's a resonance with them? The next thing is you solve a specific problem that challenges this particular audience. This is the number one message that you can give a booker in any circumstances. And keep and remember that it's not about you when you're writing, but it's about them. It's about the audience and what it is that's keeping them awake nights that you can actually transform for them. The third thing is your subject matter is compelling. There is some urgency implied, some need to know. If you're going to deliver the same old topic that, everybody has heard, or if there's not some relevancy to it, then there really isn't going to be a value to it. So you need to make sure that there is that compelling factor. What do they have to know right now that's going to make a difference in their world? The next thing is you offer something unique, different, not run of the mill. If I had a buck for everybody said, well, I help people remove their emotional blocks, or I can get them to six figures, I'd be a rich woman and they wouldn't be booked. You have got to have something more unique, more distinctive, a method, a branding, a pathway, something that is not the same old, same old. You have to carve it out and make yourself different, because otherwise they'll have seen a million of them before or other people that they've already booked, and you are going to be put to the side. The next thing is your story their story? If that you have had a business that's collapsed and you've been able to show that you can rise from the ashes, or God forbid, you suffered from sexual trauma as a child, and what that experience has been, and you've come through it, and you have a pathway. You might have, burnout, and you found a way to have a lifestyle change that's made a difference. If this audience is suffering from what you're suffering from, you did at one point in your life, if your story is their story, this is catnip for the booker. So keep that in mind. The next thing is your topic is timely, current, relevant to what is happening right now. So, look at what's going on in the Zeitgeist. Is it mental health? Is it, the climate change? Is it, diversity? Or what are the topics that people care about right now that you can address? Right now, AI is a big thing. So stay on top of what you're doing that can make it relevant to what the booker is looking for. The next thing is your credentials and expertise are significant to this audience. What have you done? What credentials do you hold that show them that you're the expert that you are and that you're the one that they want to hear this from? The next thing is you inspire and ignite the audience with specific practical steps or advice. The booker wants to know you're not just going to come in and motivate them. You're going to give them a path, a way to start their transformation. Now, certainly in your presentation, you're going to have 3-5 tips or, steps that you're going to offer. But you can also show them that there's a pathway if you're making an offer from the stage that's going to take them into the next level of steps. And the booker needs to know that. And then you match the theme or subject matter that is pertinent to this group or event. Now, every summit has a theme, and many conferences have a theme. And certainly a lot of TEDx's have a theme. So you need to make sure that your subject matter you're offering is matched to that theme. So even if it's something that you've done a million times before, you may want to tweak the description of it so that it's pertinent to this, or even create something new just for this organization. And I know a lot of people who say we'll give them an offer of a topic, and even if they haven't done it yet, if they, it's like, if you build it, they will come. If they say yes to it, now you build it. And you are the right skill level for this audience. So if you have a program that's really for an experienced group and the booker has beginners, then they're going to get lost. If, on the other hand, you have something for beginners and it's an experienced audience, they're going to just be bored to tears. So it's got to be a skill match. You have authored a book that reinforces your authority. This is always a great way to give you a leg up on other people the booker sees. If you've got a book that identifies you as an authority in this area, they're going to say yes to you more often than they are to somebody who doesn't. You've spoken at other meetings, venues, or events that also reinforce your authority and desirability. Now, there's a trick to this. When you start talking about other things that you've been booked at, it has to be at that level or above the level of the booker that you're trying to present to. Because if they see things lower, like maybe it's a business pitch and you're saying that you spoke at a spiritual center, that's not going to impress them. But if you say you talked at Google, that's going to get their attention. And then lastly, you are within the affordability range of the meeting event's budget or the people who attend. Excuse me. So if this is an audience of women that have just come out of shelters, for example, and they're just trying to rebuild their lives, and you've got a high-end program, that is not a match. It's got to be a match for the affordability of what that audience can afford. And so that's basically, those are the factors that are going to make you relevant to a speaker booker.
Wow. And these are 12 factors. Do you guys all hear this? 12 really important factors, all based on relevance. And this is really what's going to attract someone to say, boy, you are the perfect guest for this particular venue. So it makes sense to me that you do a little homework on all of this. And it seems to me also that one of the keys that really stands out to me is make sure you're clear on what your differentiators are, that you have your own unique system or pathway that is a solution to your potential audience's challenges that are an urgent need for you right now. These are just some of the things that are I'm holding in my brain about what you said, because there was a lot there. So it's great that we had this handout, or I should say the display for people, so that, hopefully you guys took a picture of it. If not, just do the rewind and take a picture of it so you can, really pay attention to what Jackie's saying here, because I think it's just gotten to the point, Jackie, hasn't it, where if you do not get exposure out there in some form of speaking, some form of presenting, and sharing what you do, the unique services that you provide, the solutions that you provide, it's going to be a hard road to build your business. Would you say?
Yes, it is. And, there's a lot more to it, and we're going to talk about some of those things. But the point is, you need to be wooing the decision maker. And in order to do that, you need to be at the top of your game.
Yeah. Now, before we go on to the tools, I just want to talk a little bit about how do you feel for someone who is more emerging? As you say, you really have to match the skill set of an emerging entrepreneur with the skill set of an audience as well. You had talked about that. What are some of the simplest steps that someone who's more emerging can take first without feeling overwhelmed? Because that was quite a list.
So the first thing I would do is I tell you to start with podcasts
Uh-huh.
and give the podcast host a list of questions to ask you. And when you have delivered the answers to that a dozen times or more, you're going to have the basis of your signature speech. And you're going to be way more confident when you start pitching yourself for speaking, when you've already delivered that content in different ways on a podcast or a virtual summit. So I suggest starting there. And then when you start to look for speaking engagements, you want to start local. You want to start with relatively friendly audiences, either in organizations you belong to or local, chambers of commerce, business networking groups, women's business networking, or if you're on a personal growth side, spiritual centers or yoga centers or something like that. So, or parenting, whatever it might be. Start with the local that are more likely to say yes to you, and then you can start working your way up.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot more comfortable for people as well, where they can, get their toes in the water, so to speak. And even something as simple as a meetup, whether it's virtual or in person, is another great place to start because it's not so intimidating and it just gives you an opportunity to get some practice. So I really appreciate those ideas. Great. Well, let's go on to talk a little bit about the tools. Now, you have several types of tools. As a matter of fact, when you shared all these with me, I was like, oh my gosh, look at what you have gathered in information and resources for people. So I'm going to let you start with which do you want to start? Stages or podcasts or summits? Where do you want to start on the
I want to
tools?
start with tools for these things, and we can talk about how to apply them in a second. But the first thing I
Okay.
want to talk about is so let's talk about speaking. So if you're looking to get booked for speaking, you need to have a presentation, a proposal letter to the booker. And it really shouldn't be much more than about 5 to 7 paragraphs. And the start of that should really address what it is, the transformation that you're bringing to their audience, why you should be speaking, why you're proposing yourself for that audience. The next part of that should really be about your credentials, why you, what you bring to the table. If you have it, it's great to have a common touch point. If you know the somebody in common, if you belong to the same group, if you went to the same college, if you live in the same hometown, mention those things when you're introducing yourself to this booker, whatever you have in common. And then the last part of it should be much more detail, a little bit more detail about maybe bullet points of what you're going to deliver, just a little bit. Here, remember, you're going to only deliver a little bit. And then you want to say, and here is my speaker one sheet, which I'm going to talk about next, because you can't give them all the information that makes you look like a superstar in 5 to 7 paragraphs.
Right.
This will augment. Then it also, there's a line that says, here is my link to my video. And you want to give them 3 to 5 minutes of you on stage, preferably. Now, I know that many people are still only presenting online. If you can use it if you need to, but I highly encourage you that everybody is looking for video of you on stage as things go live again. So really, as soon as you can get that done. And then you want to have basically the call to action, let's get together so we can discuss and see how I might be able to best serve you. Or please consider booking me for your next engagement or whatever, meeting or whatever. So that's the structure of a proposal letter. The next thing you're going to want is a speaker one sheet. A speaker one sheet will have a bio on you, some great photographs of you, headshot, maybe even some of you speaking from the stage. It should have 2 testimonials, preferably from people who booked you, and if not, from people who've heard you or people who are your coaching clients. And then on the back side, you really need to have 3 presentations. And the reason is if you only have 1 arrow in your quiver, it had better be a bullseye. If you give people a choice, you're going to get booked more often. Now you can give them 3 entirely different topics. You can give them the same presentation rewritten for 3 different audiences. You can give them 2 or 3 different levels. There's lots of ways to parse it. But depending on which audiences you're going to, because you might be sending this speaker sheet to 2 or 3 different kinds of audiences, you have to at least touch on the ones that are right for them. And you need a great snappy title, of one 2-line introduction of what the topic is, and then 3 to 5 bullet points. And by the way, that's something that we can help you with over at SpeakerTunity. Is all you need to know there is we'll give you exactly what to put in, and it's just fill in a form and you have it back in 3 to 5 days. So that's one tool. And then the last thing is the video. So those 3 things: the proposal letter, the speaker sheet, and the video. Now that we're moving on to podcasts, with podcasts, you really need to have a more extensive pitch letter. Whereas the other is, 3 to 5 to 7 short paragraphs. This can be storytelling. So you really want to talk, address in that lead, the hook, what's unique. What have you done nobody else has done? What's your hero's journey story? What problem you solve in the world? What's topical? Is this related to a holiday or something something in the news? What is the hook, the reason they need to put you on their podcast? And then you want to, again, go into your credentials, and you can go into more detail here. And then the next part, again, is much more detail about what you're going to speak about, again, using bullet points if you choose. And so that can be up to 1.5 pages. And this is what we write when we're pitching our hosts for our clients in the radio podcast tour. Now, there's an alternate and or a combination. And that is the newest thing, is a podcast introductory sheet. And instead of being a 2-pager like a speaker sheet, it's a 1-pager. And that 1 page has your bio and a couple of testimonials from other podcasters who's booked you, and then 3 to 5 topics that you speak on. Just what are your topics? And you can either send that with a brief introductory note saying, please consider me for your podcast. This is what I speak on. Attaches my podcast introductory sheet. Or you can attach it to the pitch letter, the proposal pitch letter that I was telling you about for podcasters. And it's like added value. So those are the things that you're going to need to present yourself. And then lastly, for summits, I call it a mini media kit. It's not as extensive as you would give a host of a show if you're actually going to be on their show after you've gotten booked. It's just 2 simple pages: a 3-paragraph bio, a 3-paragraph and title of what you're going to be speaking on. Same with a title and description of what your free gift is going to be, the giveaway you're going to offer, your social media links, and your website. And the only other thing you might want to add to that is if you have a JV manager or a virtual assistant that actually does the distributions for a summit. So the good part about having this is you can send it all as one if somebody just says, send me information. But today, most everything is fill in the form. So you can copy, paste for every summit that you're in and not have to reinvent the wheel. And if you have those things, it's 99% of what they're going to ask for, except maybe the dates you're going to send for the summit.
Well, so this is great advice, and I'm assuming that you have these resources available through SpeakerTunity, the what would you call them, templates or formats to put these together?
Yeah, so a couple things. So we have you can literally buy the design, and we tell you what to give us, and then you can pop it in. And so it's really simple. Gather, and there's a page that says gather your materials and come back and put it in the form, because we know that people think, oh, where is that? Where is that? So we make sure that you put it all together. And we also help people with book flyers, speaker handouts, conference roll-up banners, templates for their presentation, the branded templates, so they can create their own presentation, and virtual backgrounds. And then we'll also help people with slides if they need a whiz-bang slide presentation, and you bring the content and we'll bring the whiz-bang. All of those things are easily accessible through SpeakerTunity. And we have training programs. If you want to know how to write your speaker sheet and your radio, TV pitch letter, we've got training programs. So they'll go into much more detail than I just went into.
Oh, yeah. And then you're just scratching the surface with what you have available. I know. I found it interesting as I've been approached on numerous occasions, not only just by individuals, but also by, I guess you're going to call them booking agents. And one of my pet peeves as a host and a producer is that they don't indicate, particularly if it's someone just addressing me without a booker, they do not indicate that they've ever even watched one of the episodes of my show. That is a warning to me. If you're not doing enough research to know what my show is about, the type of people I interview, what my audience is, it's like I'm just going to ignore you. So I wanted to just add that little piece of information, is that we get, as producers and hosts, we get a lot of, these days more than ever, because I think there's so many more booking agents out there than there were. I don't know if this is a result of so much virtual going on now since the pandemic or what, but I've been surprised how many people are approaching me who have been hired by someone else. But to me, the first key is, have you listened to my podcast? Do you really know who my audience is?
Well, and a good thing to say in your proposal, in your pitch letter, sometimes for a podcast, is say, oh, on episode so-and-so, I noticed you did this. So I thought maybe this one might be a great compliment. That shows the host that you're paying attention.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So let's take it on then to where do people find the speaking gigs? Where do you get, I know you're the resource. If they weren't using the resource, give them a couple tips before.
I will do that. So if you are looking for meetings, and you're going to go do the following. You're going to go into Google and put in the kind of meeting, women's business meeting, and the city that you're in. Or you're going to go and you're going to put in parenting meetings, or whatever your subject matter might be. That's first. The second is that you're going to go into Meetup and look for the kinds of meetings. And what's nice about Meetup, you can either pick by region or you can pick by subject matter. And you can actually get on a list and they will send those kinds of things to you. The third thing is Eventbrite. Eventbrite isn't just one-off events any longer. They have a lot of reoccurring events, and you can see who the coordinator is and reach out to them and to get booked. Those are really good sources for meetings. And then, of course, you can look just locally. Your Chamber of Commerce might be able to give you other organizations in your community. They might be able to tell you what nonprofits, what other groups in the area are putting on conferences. Those are all great ways to research the possibility. And of course, don't neglect your own community. I mean, a lot of people. Put out the word, start asking about what they know about, who they know, and go to people who have booked you potentially if you've already been booked, and say, who else do you know that this might be a great thing for? And lastly, invite your audiences to tell you what speaking opportunities they know about. I know people that do a handout form. There's a product called Talkadot that actually asks that information online while you're speaking. At the end of the presentation, there's lots of ways to gather those kinds of things. So that's for meetings. Conferences, if you want to talk to associations, you go to the directory of associations. In the US, it'll give you a list by state or by subject matter of the kinds of associations that are out there, and you can reach out to them. There's also a website called Events in America. And Events in America will tell you, you can look at 6 months in advance what events are coming up. It won't tell you who the speaker bookers are. It'll just tell you what events are coming up. So, and go to your local chamber of, your convention and visitors bureau to see what is coming into your town and see if you might apply to speak to some of those events. So largely because they would rather have somebody local than pay somebody to come in to speak to their audiences. So those are some good places for you to find those speaking events.
Yeah, there's just an amazing amount of resources that are out there. And I know that you have put them together in some amazing directories as well. So tell them a little bit about that.
So let's say that you want podcasts. We've got 2 different subscription services, life enhancing podcasts or B2B. You talk to a business audience. Or you want summits. We're the only people that will give you a list of all the summits that are looking for guest presenters, and product giveaways that are looking for partners so you can grow your list and get more opportunities. And by the way, that's how Virginia and I met, was on a giveaway.
Yeah.
And so the next is if you're looking to go to conferences, we have a database of 4,000 conferences in 20 different categories, 40 different subcategories that have issued calls for speakers. It is the easiest and fastest way to find conferences that are actually looking for speakers and have made it public. The next product is we have regional directories. If you want to saturate your market, we've got 75 markets in the US and Canada for which we've done all the meetings, everything, the business, the philanthropic and service groups, your Rotaries and Lions and all of those, and then all the consumer. So you want health and wellness support groups or military or seniors or parenting or bookstores. And then spiritual centers. So that covers everything in your market. The next thing is, if you just want to speak to a specific niche, all the women's business meetings across North America, for example, or all the coaches and authors, or all the lawyers, we've identified 60 different categories so that you don't have to do any of that research yourself. And then the last directory is our TEDx directory. We have the world's largest TEDx directory, 1,400 TEDx's, US, Canada, and the rest of the world. And so if you go onto the TEDx site, you could do that research yourself, but you're not going to be easily see what's in their neighboring states. You're not going to easily see which ones have your theme. You're not going to easily see which ones are 6 months out because they've already booked the ones previously. All of those things are things that you get on our TEDx directory. So we just want to make it easy. Whatever your needs are, we're going to fill those needs. And there's one other product that I think is really interesting, and that is our Meeting Planner Connect. And that's where you can offer yourself to 10,000 meeting planners with a dedicated email. All you have to do is we give them a 100-word description of what you speak on, 100-word bio on you, links to your website, your speaker page, and your speaker reel. And you get 20 words to say, oh, these are the other things I speak on, or watch my TEDx, something you can address to the booker. So that's great. And then the last thing I want to mention is that if you don't want to do all this yourself, we have a virtual assistant team that you can hire to fill in all those forms or to take your regional or your niche directory and follow up all those leads so you don't have to do it yourself. It's 20 hours a month for $400. And they'll be doing the work. You don't even have to do the work. So we realize that we got a lot of resources for people, but they don't have the time and the ways to do that. So we've got, team to support them. Now, the simple and the easiest way to take advantage of SpeakerTunity is our membership program. In our membership program, you can choose the podcasts, the summits, the conferences, and then a smorgasbord of those transformational leads all over North America, that original product. You can choose for one of those, and the cost is so reasonable, it's only $47 a month. And then if you need more, you can upgrade to our next level program and get all of them. So it's a very simple process. We grow with you as you grow.
Well, there really is no need to do this by yourself. And as you just said, you've got a team of people who have gathered all these resources, keep them current, make them available at a very reasonable price, considering what the value of the exposure is for getting these various types of speaking engagements. So I find it a no-brainer for those of you who really want to step up your game and get more exposure. Jackie and her team have just really done all the foundational work for you. But now she's just informed you that she also has a whole group of assistants who can put everything together for you. So you can continue to do what you do best and let them do what they do best. Win-win situation. Jackie, it's really brilliant what you've put together, and a wonderful need for it as well. Because I think this is something that people really do struggle with. They'd like to get some exposure, and it looks to me like you've got anything from the beginning level of work to getting into the more advanced conferences and higher end presentation opportunities. So I'm so happy to be able to share this with everyone. So thrilled to have connected with you as well through our giveaways, which has been exciting as well. Now, you do have a gift. Let me bring that up, because everything she just shared with you, to me, is a gift in and of itself, but we do actually have a special gift for you as well. And you guys all know the formula for me. It is, you want Jackie's gift, go to shinetips.com/Jackie gift. It's that simple. But Jackie, tell them all about why they need to go there and pick this up first and foremost.
So from any stage, whether it's a podcast, a summit, or meeting, or conferences, you need to deliver a great lead magnet that is going to get people into your opt-in. You never want to leave a stage. Even when you're making a paid offer, you also give a free offer so that you can get people into your community. But if you think that just an ebook or an offer of a discovery call are the only things that you can offer that's going to entice the audience, I got news for you. There are 44 ways to seduce your clients from podcasts, radio shows, virtual summits, virtual networking, and TEDx. So just take advantage of this great tool that is going to open up your eyes as to the different kinds of lead magnets that you can deliver that's going to get them into your community.
All right, there you go. 44 ways to seduce your next client from stage, podcast, radio, or virtual summits is there. All you do is go to shinetips.com/Jackie gift. And if you're just listening to this, Jackie spelled Jackie gift, Jackie gift. And Jackie, this has just been really an inspirational delivery from you, because you have provided us with a wealth of content, ideas, inspiration. I want to thank you for being here. Let's wrap it all up. Is there one final thing you want to make sure that they take home with them today that makes them step out of their shadow and get seen on stage?
The first thing that you have to know is that bookings will not just show up in your email. You have to spend time committed to finding and to writing the materials, doing the follow-up, and getting these locked in. So book 3 hours a week in your calendar, committed to your visibility, and then use that to make sure either you're doing the work or you're supervising a VA or a team member, so they're doing the work. You don't just hand it off to them. You really need to have them rehearse it to you. You need to make sure that they're delivering it in the right way to the right audiences that you have picked. Either way, that 3 hours is going to be magical for you.
That's it. Take the time to develop yourself and get yourself prepared to do the very best that you can on stage, both virtually and in live situations. So Jackie, thank you so much for being here with us today and sharing what I would say is a treasure trove of information. We really appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Virginia. It was a delight.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and we'll see you on the next Inspirational Businesswoman show. Bye-bye now.
Thanks so much for watching today. Do you know someone who would be a great guest for our show? Or would you like to be a guest on the Inspirational Businesswoman show? Let's shine the spotlight on your expertise. We'll share your story while offering tips, strategies, and advice to our viewers. Expert interviews are a great way to build your reputation as the go-to expert. Go to shinetips.com/IBWS to apply today. Women are waiting for your message, and I can't wait to interview you.